Welcome to a new episode of Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid Ahmed. Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Hacks and Hobbies. Thank you guys for all of your support, listening to the podcast, sharing it with your family and friends. I am very thankful for your efforts in growing this community of listeners and hackers and hobbyists. It's just amazing to find amazing people that share information freely. So yesterday's video was posted, the challenge was accepted, and I was able to post a video not in the window that I wanted to post it at, and there's a few reasons around it. LinkedIn is very specific on the type of videos that it wants to be uploaded at, and having slow connection sometimes throws you off. But if you have a properly formatted file that is in MP4 format saved from your device, that will work perfectly. So I ran into an issue where I spent about 2 hours trying to upload this video that I had created to LinkedIn. And the initial export was a .m4v file from Final Cut Pro. I then brought this file up to good old Headliner app so it can transcribe all of my text and make little captions for me. So this was the first place that I got stuck because Headliner.app, which is a web app, needed a .mp4 file, and I had an m4v file. So I was like, well, let's see if I can convert it. I converted it, and I was like, wait, but m4v is a mp4 file. So I just changed the extension, and that file was able to upload, and they were able to process it. But when I exported it, it came out to be a little smaller file, but the resolution was still good. And I was like, all right, I've got my file ready. I can upload it to LinkedIn when I'm ready. And I brought the file and put it on my phone. Like, all right, I've got the file on my phone in the camera roll, and I can upload it. But that didn't work as I planned. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna open this video file with VideoLeap and then re-export it out into the 1080p format. Now that actually worked perfectly. So the exported file from VideoLeap or even iMovie on the iPhone will work just fine. So just to figure that stuff out ahead of time. Since I've had the 3-day class, I haven't been able to use my desktop or a laptop to do the final edits and post it to LinkedIn from there, having limited connectivity. But hopefully tomorrow and following days, I should be able to do that. Either from my phone or have it the right format on my phone and then upload it when I'm ready to go. So that's what happened yesterday, the 19th of October. Today is the 20th, and I am, of course, posting this day by day. So I was going through some of the podcasts that I listened to, and one of the new ones, I've probably talked about Dave and his car thoughts earlier before on my podcast, and he's been doing great. He's at episode, a really high number, I do not know, but he's been dropping some really good information, and I was happy that I'm connected. Now, if you're looking to set up a website associated with your podcast, that is also a very easy way to do. One, you will need a web host that supports WordPress. Almost every web host now supports WordPress. So you would set up your WordPress website and pick a theme that you like for your website, set that up. You'll need just one additional plugin to work with your WordPress website. This plugin is called Blueberry's PowerPress. It's a PowerPress podcast plugin. Now this plugin essentially can make your website a host for your podcast, but that's not what we're using this plugin for. We're using this plugin to import all of the episodes from our Anchor hosted podcast and bring these posts over to our blog post. What this does is it creates another place to store content, to store your podcast, to store additional text for each of the podcasts. Now, when you are creating a podcast on Anchor, each episode has the ability to have up to 3,500 characters of text description added that can be added to each podcast episode. You have the title of the episode and you have the podcast description. The description can talk about everything that you're going to be talking about in the podcast. It could even be a transcript of the podcast, but that's all up to you. And so once you put in that text, that Anchor blog text into the Anchor podcast and publish it, that description text is available on every podcast distribution site, such as Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, among others. So when you do the import from the Blueberry PowerPress Podcast plugin into your WordPress website, the plugin will bring in all of this content that you've written on your Anchor podcast and bring it to your website. So now each of your podcast episode has a blog post for itself, as well as the text for that blog post is in the proper place. Of course, you can go in, edit the text up a little bit, add links that you might have talked about in the podcast, and links to other guests, speakers. All of those things could be handled once you have imported that podcast link. Now I'm still searching for a plugin that will display a nice looking player on my podcast website page or on my podcast episode page. A nice player. Right now you have option of between 3 different players that come with Blueberry PowerPress plugin, but I'm sure there's other ways to make it look better. So a really good way to increase the level of engagement, the broadcasting, and the content availability throughout all of the media, all of the social media, is when you have a central place where your podcast lives, the website, the podcast host, which is Anchor.fm, social media sites you might create your social media handle for and link through. So those are some of the things that I am doing. I'll be looking at setting up some other items as well to automate a lot of this functionality. Another thing that I'm doing on my podcast website is every time a new episode is created on the website, I want to push this information over to my Facebook page, over to my Twitter, or the Twitter for the podcast, and share the information. Now, Anchor already does push to Twitter. They don't have the Facebook functionality linked in yet. But if you are pushing from Twitter the information about the podcast episode, that link is going to bring them back to the Anchor site. If you want people to come to your podcast website that you've set up, then you want to push the content out from your podcast website. So that's something that I'll be setting up. So far, I've set up the ability to create a new Facebook post every time I have a new podcast imported and push it out. Now, something that you can also add in is scheduling. Scheduling is huge. Now, since I will be doing a bulk import, it might create a lot of episodes, a lot of posts on my Facebook. I'm not sure how Facebook feels about this. Again, I'll have to test it out myself and see what happens. There's a lot of tweaking that needs to be done to get that working properly. These are some of the tips. I'm going to have a blog post around this specific episode, and you can listen, follow the links, and how you can go about setting this up for yourself. Again, feel free to reach out to me with any question you might have. Thanks again for listening and supporting this podcast. Connected with him and been following his journey. and he had a podcast on his podcast on how to start a podcast. That's something that I really never got into, even though it is a hobby and I should be talking about this hobby. So today I have about some time to go into the details of what I've done and how I got started into podcasting. So I got started into podcasting a while back in 2013. I was listening to a lot of podcasts at the time, and I was talking to my cousins, and probably talked about this before. But I was talking to my cousin, and I was like, let's do a podcast. We can talk to each other. We can talk about all the cool things that we already talk about in this little group chat that we have set up on Google Hangouts. And they were like, sure, let's do it. So we called it Still Brewing It, and you can actually still go to Still Brewing It, stillbrewing.it website, and check out our 4 episodes that we posted on there. And I tried to restart that again earlier this year, and I was like, let's just post posts, and we managed to get some posts out. But anyways, so the process back then in 2012, I said 2013 because I keep mixing the dates. Back in 2012, we used Google Hangouts to record a live session, essentially. So you have to be live broadcasting the Google Hangout session on YouTube for Google to actually record the entire session. So we all joined in to the Google Hangout session, and we're talking about the different topics. And once we're done, we downloaded the video because they give you the option since you created it. You can download your video and extracted the audio from it, bring the audio into GarageBand, add an intro and outro. And so that was the process that we had to go through back in 2012. Now I'm sure there's many different processes that were available at the time, but that was the quick and the free way of starting a podcast, for us at least. We didn't do a lot of research. We just jumped onto it and started doing it. I did look through some Skype applications that would record calls and whatnot, but I just was never a big fan of it. Fast forward 2018, and Anchor.app, which is an actual mobile app, Anchor.fm, came out of hiding. They've been around for probably longer, but I discovered Anchor.fm in 2018 when I decided that I wanted to start podcasting again. So if you're looking to start a podcast, what different things would you need? Well, today, to start a podcast, all you need is your cell phone. Sorry, do not use a cell phone because a cell phone does not do you any good. You need a smartphone, an iOS or an Android device that can download the app Anchor from Anchor.fm or from your respective Google Play Store or Apple App Store. Download the Anchor.fm app, which will then enable you to log in or sign up for the Anchor.fm. So you get the Anchor.fm app from your respective app store, and you create your account. You provide the details for your podcast. Of course, you need a nice cover. And guess what? Anchor just enabled the cover app. You can create a beautiful looking cover art for your podcast within the app. They've partnered with Unsplash, and you can go either the Anchor.fm website or on your app and be able to create a podcast cover to go with your amazing new podcast. Once you've got the podcast cover and the description and everything set up, you'll then select where do you want to publish. Do you want it only on the Anchor FM app, or do you want it available everywhere? Of course, you want it available everywhere. Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and many more. So Anchor FM handles all of this good stuff. Once everything is all set up, you can then go ahead and start recording your episodes. Now, Anchor FM app also has a lot of cool background music, little snippets of audio that you can put between segments. So another cool thing that Anchor used to have a couple months ago was the Anchor co-host, and I believe I talked about the co-host feature on the Anchor FM app, and it was good. It was glitchy, so it wouldn't work 100% all the time. But I did manage to speak with some people on Anchor through the co-hosts feature. All right. So you've got the Anchor.fm app and you got your phone. You're ready to go. Absolutely. So one thing you will notice is when you're recording your audio and you're listening back using the phone, you will now depends on how you talk to your phone. Do you talk to your phone on while it's on the speakerphone? Or do you put it to your face? Now, if you are talking on the phone while it's on your face, well, the built-in noise reduction abilities of your phone will reduce any additional noise from your voice, and that sounds clean and clear. The other thing you can use is a connected microphone or the headset microphone that comes with your phone. Plug that in, start talking to that microphone. I have not tested that thoroughly, but there might be some noise from the background depending on where you are, right? So I'm recording most of the times in my car, so there's a lot of noise around me. So I want to make sure that noise is taken out, so all you're focusing on is the story that I'm telling you. Another way you can do is using a Bluetooth headset. Now, some Bluetooth headset will work perfectly fine, others might have an issue. So there's several different ways. So what do I have set up? I've connected my iPad where I record my podcasts with a Lightning camera connector. The Lightning camera connector comes with a USB port, and in the USB port I have a USB headset that's used for your computer. So you can use this headset on your computer when you're making VoIP calls, work calls. So any USB headset that has a microphone that comes right by your face is going to be much better than anything else out there, because the source of the audio is right next to where the audio needs to go. If there's any distance between the microphone and your talking voice, it'll get muddled, it will get mixed into things and come through to the audio. Now, it all comes down to, are you using any additional software to remove that noise that you might have in the audio? That's all up to you. I have used several different applications. I use Ferrite to record my audio sessions. I can remove the blank spots when I have the time. Otherwise, I just keep it natural and plug it in. The other software that I've used is Adobe Audition. Sometimes I will remove additional noise from my voice from the surrounding noise, and I'll cut down the blank spots, the silence spaces, the silences in my language. And sometimes I can even remove the ums and the ahs. Of course, that kind of work takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. You want to minimize the effort it takes you to be recording these podcasts, because the easier it is for you to do it, the more consistent you're going to be, the more appreciation you'll find in doing this. We're a generation of instant gratification, and anything that takes a little more longer turns us off. I mean, it's not just our generation, it is literally the human nature to, avoid confrontation, avoid friction, avoid any of those kind of things. So if you're looking to start a podcast and you want the minimum amount of distractions, the minimum amount of setbacks, go with the Anchor FM app. Amazingly, they've got support for all three major platforms. They have the app on the Google Play Store for Android, on Apple App Store for iOS, and the desktop. Through the desktop, you can open up your Chrome browser, go to the website, and start recording right from your browser. And the quality is clean. They have updated this software on all platforms to be able to record 44 kilohertz at 16-bit, which is a very decent quality audio. So that's how simple it is in 2018 to record a brand new podcast. Now, what do you do if you want to interview people? How do I record those podcasts? Well, Anchor FM app lets you do that as well, as long as the person you want to interview is also on the Anchor FM app. Then you can friend them on the app and make a phone call through the Anchor FM app to the person you want to talk to. And as soon as you're connected, you have a few seconds before the recording starts. Everybody's in sync and the recording starts. Even if you're not in sync and you just start talking while the recording starts, you can always trim that audio out because Anchor.fm app now enables you to split your long audio file into short segments. You can trim those audio files and do all of those things directly on your phone, which is really powerful. Now, let's say you want to talk to more than 2 people. Well, there's several solutions, and I have not tried this on the Anchor.fm app if I can talk to multiple people, but there is other applications that will let you do it. For example, the one that we used back in the day was Hangouts. You can talk to multiple people. Now you can do that with Zoom. Zoom lets you connect to multiple people on a conference call, and it will record all of the stuff and bring it to your desktop. So that's number 2. Number 3, there's an amazing web application called Zencaster. Zencaster runs through your desktop on a Chrome web browser. You can start a recording session and invite people to the conversation just through a link. All they have to do is open up the link in Chrome browser, put in their name, and they're ready to go. And there's, of course, they got to have a microphone on their side or any type of audio device, audio listening device. Last time I recorded a session, my friend just had the regular microphone off of the computer, and the audio came in pretty crystal clear. And so yeah, it's pretty simple. What's cool about Zencaster is that it will record all the conversations on the application through the Chrome browser, and it will, as soon as it is done recording the conversations, it's uploading it as well to their server. And since it's just audio, the data is not as huge, so it's instantaneous almost as it records the conversations and brings it up to the cloud. You can then download these audio files, mux them together, and your podcast interview is ready for prime time. Some of the applications that I used on the desktop, I'm using Adobe Audition. I have used GarageBand. I have also used Audacity. Audacity is a free version. Adobe Audition costs some money. GarageBand is also free, comes with your Mac. Adobe Audition can be used on both Mac desktops and PC desktops. So there's a lot of cool features in Adobe Audition. You can remove excess sound, you can remove noise from conversations, you can also remove clicks and other kinds of things that might muddle the audio. But again, as long as you have a good microphone to start off on either side, you're good to go. You don't have to do a whole lot of processing on this audio. Again, these are many different ways that you can go about messing around and creating your podcast. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to send them over to me. I will be more than happy to help you in setting up your podcast and setting up your station. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I can be reached at hacksandhobbies.com, on Twitter, on Instagram, or on the website. So feel free to reach out, ask any question you might have, and I'll be there to walk you through it step by step.